The crash hook the night sky was silent, filled with thousands of stars. Then, a single burning ship cut across the darkness like a falling star. It was not a star. It was a broken vessel, a human ship falling fast into the atmosphere of an unknown world inside. The engineer held the controls tight. His name was Daniel Cole, but at this moment, names did not matter. Survival did. Warning lights flashed red around him. Alarms screamed in his ears. The console burned with sparks. Smoke filled the air. "Come on, stay together," Daniel whispered. But the ship did not listen. A final explosion shook the cockpit, and the vessel broke apart. He grabbed the emergency lever and pulled. The seat shot out, the escape pod blasting into the dark sky. Behind him, his ship shattered like glass and fell into the clouds below. The pod crashed hard against the surface of the planet. The ground shook. Metal tore apart. Fire spread in all directions. Daniel's head slammed against the harness, and for a moment, everything went black. When he opened his eyes, the fire was dying down. The pod was destroyed. His body ached, but he was alive. Slowly, he unstrapped himself and crawled out. The world around him was strange. The ground was covered with glowing blue grass that swayed like it was alive. Tall trees rose high above him, their bark black but shining as if polished with metal. The air smelled sharp, almost electric. The sky was green, with two moons hanging side by side like watching eyes. He stood still, breathing hard. "Where am I?" He whispered, but silence gave no answer. Daniel checked his equipment. His tool belt was still with him, some scanners, a cutting torch, a few survival rations, no weapons. His communication device was dead, fried in the crash. He was alone, or so he thought. As he walked through the glowing forest, he felt something. Watching, shadows moved where no wind blew. The trees made strange noises, like whispers. His engineer's mind wanted to explain everything. Gas, movement of plants, sound bouncing off trunks. But deep inside, fear grew. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time felt strange here. The deeper he went, the louder the forest seemed. Chirps, cracks, a low hum under the earth. Then he heard footsteps. Not animal footsteps. Too light, too careful. He froze. His hand went to the torch at his belt. He listened. Silence again. Maybe just my mind, he told himself. But then, eyes glowing. Golden eyes shining in the dark between the trees. His breath caught. The figure stepped forward, slow, calm, almost graceful. It was not human. She stood tall, her skin a soft silver color that shimmered under the green sky. Her hair was long and white, like flowing threads of light. Strange symbols glowed faintly. On her arms, almost like tattoos, but they pulsed as if alive. She wore no helmet, no human suit. Yet she breathed the air with ease. Daniel's heart raced. An alien. He whispered. Her gaze was cold, sharp, studying him as if he was a puzzle. She tilted her head, and the glowing symbols on her arms brightened. She said something in a language he could not understand. The words smooth, flowing like music. Daniel stepped back. His boots crunched the glowing grass. She raised a hand, and he thought for a moment she might attack. But she did not. Instead, she pointed at him, then at the destroyed pod behind him. Her golden eyes narrowed. Daniel realized she was asking a question. I crashed, he said slowly, pointing to himself and then to the burning wreck. He didn't know why he explained it wasn't like she could understand, but maybe she did. Her expression shifted, softer now, almost curious. Then the ground shook. Both of them looked up. The trees bent, their glowing leaves falling like rain. A roar filled the air, deep and terrible, making Daniel's bones vibrate. Something huge moved above the forest canopy. Shadows spread across the ground. Wings as wide as a ship cutting across the green sky. The alien woman stepped closer to him without hesitation, her hand glowing brighter, ready for danger. Daniel held his torch tight. The roar grew louder, the shadows circling lower. Whatever it was hunting. Daniel looked at the alien woman. She looked back at him. For a moment, no words were needed. Both of them understood. They were not alone on this planet, and something bigger, something darker, was coming for them. Uneasy as the roar still echoed through the alien forest. The shadow of the giant beast circled above, wings wide enough to cover the treetops. Daniel Cole gripped his cutting torch tighter, his heart racing in his chest. The silver-skinned alien woman stood close, her golden eyes glowing as she watched. The sky, neither moved. Both knew one mistake could mean death. Then, just as suddenly as it appeared, the flying monster drifted into the distance. Its shadow shrank, the heavy roar fading like thunder rolling away. The forest grew quiet again, too quiet, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Daniel let out the air he didn't realize he was holding. He turned to the alien woman. She was still watching the sky, her hand glowing faintly with strange light. When she finally lowered it, her gaze returned to him. For a moment, neither spoke. They only stared. Stranger and stranger, Daniel broke the silence first. Guess we're both stuck here. His voice was low, rough from fear and exhaustion. The alien woman tilted her head. She didn't understand the words, but she seemed to recognize the tone. She spoke back, her language soft and sharp at the same time, filled with strange sounds that almost sang. Daniel shook his head. "I don't understand," he muttered. He pointed at himself. "Human." He tapped his chest. Then he pointed. At her, "You." Her glowing eyes blinked once. Slowly, she pressed her hand to her own chest. "Serana." The word was clear, heavy, like a name that carried meaning. Daniel repeated it, awkwardly. "Serana." For the first time, her lips curved just slightly. A smile, or maybe something like it. The forest was still dangerous, and Daniel knew they couldn't stand in the open. He gestured with his hands, pretending to build a roof. "Shelter," he said firmly. Then he pointed around them. "Danger." Golden eyes narrowed as if measuring him. Then she nodded once. She understood. Together they began searching. The glowing plants seemed to move as they passed, curling toward their warmth. Strange insects scuttled across the black trunks of trees. Every sound felt louder now, as if the planet wanted to remind them, "You are not welcome here." Daniel spotted a large fallen tree, hollow inside. It might serve as a temporary shelter. He walked closer, but Serana raised her hand, stopping him. She crouched low, pressed her silver hand against the glowing grass, and closed her eyes. The tattoos along her arms pulsed brighter. Daniel frowned. "What are you doing?" Serana opened her eyes. "No," she said, in broken, heavy English. "Just one word." She pointed at the hollow log. Her face was stern. Daniel blinked in surprise. "You speak?" She didn't answer, only turned away. But he understood enough. The hollow was dangerous. They kept moving until they found a cluster of rocks forming a small cave. It was shallow, but enough to hide them from the sky. Daniel pulled out his small tools, using scraps from his broken pod to create sparks. Soon, a small fire burned inside the cave, filling it with warmth and light. Serana sat across from him, watching carefully. She seemed curious about the fire, though not afraid. Her golden eyes reflected the flames like liquid metal. Daniel broke a ration bar and offered half to her. She studied it, sniffed it, then shook her head. Instead, she pulled a strange glowing fruit from her belt pouch and tossed it toward him. He caught it clumsily. "What is this?" He looked at it round, purple, faintly glowing. Serana bit into her own fruit, the glow brightening as juice dripped down her hand. She ate calmly, eyes fixed on him. Daniel hesitated. Then, with a sigh, he took a bite. The taste was sharp, sour-sweet, like nothing he had ever eaten before. Energy rushed through him almost instantly. His fatigue faded slightly. He gave her a small nod. Not bad. She tilted her head again, studying him as if he was the strange creature here. For a while, they sat in silence, eating, listening to the forest outside. But the silence did not last. A distant howl echoed through the trees. Deep, guttural, closer than before. Then another answered it. Daniel stiffened. Serana stood, her glowing tattoos burning brighter, casting light on the cave walls. She looked at him, then pointed to the entrance. Her meaning clear. They are coming. Daniel grabbed his torch, checked his belt for tools. His mind raced. How could he fight creatures he hadn't even seen yet? He was just an engineer, not a soldier. But survival demanded more than fear. The howls grew louder. Shadows moved outside the cave, shapes crawling on all fours, circling. Serana raised her hand, light sparking from her fingers like living fire. Daniel swallowed hard. Guess it's fight together. Or die alone. For the first time, Serana gave a sharp nod. The shadows grew closer. The cave shook with snarls and scratching claws. Daniel's fire flickered. Serana's golden eyes blazed, side by side, human and alien, prepared for their first battle together. The hunt begins. The cave trembled as the snarls outside grew louder. Daniel's fire flickered, shadows dancing across the walls. Serana stood at the entrance, her silver skin glowing faintly, her tattoos pulsing with light. Daniel clutched his cutting torch, its small flame weak compared to the storm that waited outside. The first creature appeared. Its body was low to the ground, long and thin, with skin like stretched leather. For glowing eyes burned red in the dark. Behind it, too. More slithered into view, their claws scratching against the rock floor. Their teeth glistened, sharp and endless. Daniel's throat went dry. Monsters. Real monsters. The lead beast growled, a sound so deep it rattled his chest. It crept closer, its eyes locked on him. Serana moved first. She raised her glowing hand and slammed it against the ground. A burst of light shot forward, blinding the creatures. They screeched and staggered back, their claws scraping wildly against the stone. Daniel flinched, covering his eyes from the flash. When he looked again, Serana was already advancing, her hand burning like fire. The creatures recovered fast. One leaped at her with a shriek. She twisted aside with inhuman grace, driving her glowing palm into its chest. The beast convulsed, sparks dancing over its body, then collapsed in smoke. The second one darted toward Daniel. Its jaws opened wide, rows of teeth ready to tear him apart. Not today, he shouted, swinging his cutting torch. The beast recoiled. As the flames seared its face, but it didn't stop. It lunged again. Daniel grabbed a broken metal rod from his belt and jammed it into the creature's mouth. With his other hand, he pressed the torch against its side. The smell of burning flesh filled the cave. The beast thrashed, then fell, its body smoking. Daniel staggered back, breathing hard. His hands shook. He had never killed anything like this before. He was an engineer, not a fighter. But the planet didn't care who he was. The last creature circled, more cautious than the others. It hissed, its 4 eyes fixed on both of them. Daniel and Serana stood shoulder to shoulder, breathing heavy but alive. The beast crouched low, ready to spring. Serana whispered something in her own language, her voice steady, calm. She pressed her glowing hand against the wall of the cave. The rock itself began to shimmer. Lines of light spread across the stone like veins of fire. The beast roared and charged. The cave wall exploded outward, throwing shards of stone in all directions. A beam of pure light shot from Serana's hand, hitting the creature in midair. Its body twisted, shrieked, and then fell limp at their feet. Silence, only the crackle of fire remained. Daniel stared at the smoking corpse, chest heaving. You saved us." Serana turned her golden eyes toward him. She didn't smile, but her expression softened. She gave a small nod, as if to say, "We saved each other." They dragged the bodies outside, leaving them for whatever other predators prowled. The forest. The night air was cool, filled with a strange glow of plants. Somewhere far away, the flying beast from before gave another roar. This world was alive, dangerous, and it was watching them. Daniel wiped sweat from his face. "We can't stay here," he said. He pointed to the cave. "Too exposed. More will come." Serana seemed to understand. She gestured toward the deeper forest. "Shelter," she said in broken English, her voice strange but clear enough. Daniel raised an eyebrow. "You do understand me?" She didn't answer. She simply started walking. They traveled through the night, moving quickly, carefully. Serana walked ahead, her glowing tattoos lighting the way. Daniel followed, his mind racing with questions. Who was she really? How had she learned some of his language? And what were those powers she used? Light, fire, something else? The forest grew thicker, darker. Strange vines hung from the trees, pulsing with faint light. Insects the size of birds buzzed through the air. The ground hummed with a strange vibration, like the planet itself had a heartbeat. Daniel stopped. Suddenly, wait. He crouched down, placing his hand against the soil. It was warm, too warm, almost like heat rising from a machine. He frowned. "This isn't normal." Serana knelt beside him. She touched the ground too, then whispered a word in her own tongue. Her expression darkened. She stood quickly and urged him forward. The hum grew louder as they walked. Soon, they entered a clearing. At the center stood a giant structure half buried in the earth. Black stone carved with glowing symbols, taller than any tree. The same symbols that glowed on Serana's skin. Daniel's mouth went dry. "What is this place?" Serana's golden eyes shone brighter. She whispered a word that sounded almost sacred. "Ancients." Daniel stepped closer, brushing his fingers over the stone. The symbols glowed brighter where he touched them. Serana gasped, stepping back in shock. "I didn't do anything," he said quickly. But the wall of the structure was already shifting. Panels of stone slid apart, ancient gears grinding. A low rumble echoed through the forest. The symbols blazed with light. The ground trembled. Birds scattered from the trees. Serana grabbed his arm, her voice sharp with fear. "No, dangerous." Daniel's heart pounded. "I didn't mean to." Before he could finish, the ground split open. From beneath the earth, a massive shape rose, covered in stone and metal. It was no beast, no animal. It was a machine, a guardian. Its eyes blazed red as it turned toward them. Strange discoveries. The ground shook as the machine rose higher from beneath the earth. Dust and glowing soil rained down around Daniel and Serana. The guardian towered above them, its stone body covered in glowing lines, its face shaped like a mask of war. Red eyes flared, scanning, searching. Daniel stumbled back, his heart pounding in his chest. What What is this thing? Serana's golden eyes widened with fear. She whispered a single word. Protector. The Guardian's head turned toward Daniel. A deep hum rolled from its chest, followed by a voice that sounded like grinding stone. The words were strange, ancient, but Serana seemed to understand. Her face grew pale. What did it say? Daniel asked, his voice shaking. She looked at him sharply. It says, Intruder. The Guardian's arm rose, made of stone plates bound by glowing energy. From its palm burst a beam of red light, striking the ground where Daniel had stood a moment before. The earth exploded, throwing him to the side. Daniel coughed, dirt filling his mouth. He scrambled to his feet. That thing is going to kill us. Serana raised her hands, light bursting from her tattoos. She shouted in her language, the words strong and commanding, as if trying to stop the machine. But the Guardian did not. Slow. It stepped forward, each movement shaking the ground. Daniel's instinct screamed at him to run. But something in his mind clicked the symbols on the stone wall. The way they glowed when he touched them. Maybe he was connected to this. Maybe. He was the reason it had awakened. He rushed to the wall of the ancient ruin, placing both hands against the glowing carvings. The stone burned hot beneath his palms, and light spread outward like veins of fire. The Guardian froze. Its red eyes shifted to him, focusing. Serana gasped, her light dimming as she turned to Daniel. Stop, she shouted. You do not know what you do? But Daniel couldn't stop. His body felt locked to the wall, as if the symbols were pulling his energy, feeding on his strength. His vision blurred with flashy shapes of ships, battles in the stars, voices in languages he couldn't understand, images of Serana's people and others like them, images of humans too. Though that made no sense, the Guardian let out a roar that shook the clearing. Serana fired another burst of light, striking its chest. The machine staggered but did not fall. With a final scream, Daniel tore his hands away. The wall went dark again, and the connection broke. He collapsed to his knees, gasping for air. The Guardian stood still now, red eyes flickering uncertainly. It seemed to hesitate, as if confused. Serana pulled Daniel back, her hand gripping his arm tightly. You touched the mark. Only blood of ancients can do this. Her voice was sharp, demanding. Why you? You are human. Daniel shook his head weakly. I don't know, I swear. I don't know. Her eyes narrowed. Distrust flashed across her face, but before she could speak, again, the Guardian's chest flared with light. The stone mask shifted, revealing a glowing sphere at its core. The forest around them responded. The ground hummed louder. The plants bent toward the Guardian, their glowing leaves shivering. It was like the entire planet was listening. Then, with a final pulse of energy, the machine sank back into the earth, vanishing beneath stone plates that closed as if nothing had happened. The clearing grew silent once more. Daniel leaned back against the wall, exhausted. It just left. Serana did not look relieved. Her golden eyes were cold. No, it waits. You woke it, human. Now the planet knows you. Her words sent a chill through him. Daniel stood unsteadily. We need to figure this out. If there are more of those things, she cut him off. Not things. Guardians, they protect this world from outsiders. Her gaze pierced him. My people know the stories. Your people should not be able to touch their power. Yet, you did. Daniel wanted to argue, but deep inside, he felt the same unease. Why had the wall answered to him? What hidden link bound him to this place? They explored further around the ruins. The carvings told stories, figures of tall beings holding light in their hands, shaping planets, fighting in the stars. Some of the figures looked like Serana's kind. Others, Daniel swore they looked almost human. He pointed at one carving. That looks like me. Serana's expression tightened. Impossible. But her voice shook. The truth was dangerous. It threatened both of them. As night fell, they returned to the cave with more questions than answers. The forest glowed eerily, its whispers louder now. Daniel sat near the fire, staring at his hands, remembering the burn of the symbols. Serana watched him, her expression unreadable. Finally, she spoke. If you are linked to the ancients, then you are not safe. My enemies will hunt you. They will not let this power rest. Daniel looked up at her, fear heavy. In his chest, and you? Will you hunt me too? Her golden eyes softened, just slightly. She shook her head. Not yet. First, we survive. Outside, far in the distance, the flying beast roared again. But this time, it wasn't alone. Other roars answered. The planet was waking, and now it knew both of them were here. Trust tested the night was heavy with silence. Daniel sat by the small fire inside their cave, staring at the flames. His hands still tingled from the strange symbols he had touched on the ancient wall. Serana sat across from him, her golden eyes fixed on him like sharp blades. He could feel the weight of her stare. It wasn't curiosity anymore. It was suspicion. Finally, she spoke. Her voice was low, controlled. Human, tell me truth. Why can you call the ancients light? Daniel shook his head, frustrated. I don't know. I'm just an engineer. I build things, fix machines. I've never even seen anything like that before. Her eyes narrowed. The glowing tattoos along her arms pulsed faintly, as if they reacted to her anger. Lies. I'm not lying. Daniel snapped, louder than he meant to. His voice echoed off the stone walls. He lowered his tone quickly. Look, maybe. There's some connection. Maybe humans are part of this somehow. But I swear, I didn't know. I don't want this. Serana studied him for a long moment. Then she stood and turned toward the mouth of the cave. Whether you want or not, the world has chosen. It does not choose by accident. The forest outside glowed faintly under the twin moons. Strange cries echoed through the night, creatures calling to each other. Serana stepped outside, scanning the trees. Daniel followed. Though his chest felt heavy, trust was breaking between them. He could feel it as they walked deeper into the jungle. Serana spoke again, her voice cold. My people fear the ancients. We tell stories of their weapons. Whole worlds burned by their hand. If you carry their mark, you're danger. Daniel frowned. So what then? You think I'm some kind of weapon that I'm going to destroy? Your world, not think. Serana stopped walking and faced him. I know what happens when power is given to wrong hands. Her golden eyes blazed in the moonlight. And I do not know your hands. The tension between them grew heavier. With each step, Daniel's mind raced. He wanted to prove he wasn't a threat. But how? He barely understood what had happened himself. Then, a sound split the silence. A low hum, mechanical, rising from the trees. Daniel froze. Serana raised her hand, light pulsing. Between the trunks, glowing red eyes appeared. Small this time not. Like the giant guardian, but smaller machines, shaped like hounds. Their bodies were made of black metal and stone. Their jaws sharp with glowing teeth. They moved together, silent and perfect, circling. Daniel cursed under his breath. More of them? Serana's voice was tight. Scouts. Guardians send hunters. Now, the first hound leaped forward. Serana's hand flared with light, blasting it back into the trees. But two more closed in from behind. Daniel swung his cutting torch, sparks flying as he struck one across the face. The metal cracked, but the creature kept moving, claws raking across his arm. He shouted in pain, stumbling back. Serana pulled him away, firing another burst of light that shattered the machine into pieces. The last hound circled, growling with a mechanical roar. Serana prepared to strike, but Daniel stopped her. "Wait," he said, breathing hard. He pulled a tool from his belt, a signal disruptor he had salvaged from the pod. He knelt quickly, wires sparking in his hands. "If I can overload this," the hound charged. Serana held it back with a wave of light, but her energy was fading. Daniel twisted the wires, slammed the device into the ground, and pressed the torch to it. The disruptor exploded with a pulse of energy. The hound shrieked, its red eyes flickering, then collapsed lifeless into the dirt. Silence fell again. The forest hissed with energy, but no more hunters came. Daniel leaned against a tree, his chest heaving. "See, I'm not a weapon. I'm just good with machines." Serana's golden eyes glowed faintly. She stepped closer, studying him. "You are dangerous in another way. You think fast. You change things. Machines listen to you." He laughed bitterly. "Machines don't listen to me. I just fix what's broken. That's all I've ever done." But his words rang hollow, even to himself. The machines here had responded to him. The ancient ruins had recognized his touch, and that terrified him. They returned to the cave before dawn. Daniel wrapped his injured arm with torn cloth. Serana sat near the fire, silent. The distance between them had grown wider, though they sat only a few feet apart. Finally, Serana spoke, her voice soft, almost weary. "I should kill you." Daniel froze. He looked at her, eyes wide. She met his gaze calmly. "If you are chosen by the ancients, you are a danger to me, to my people. I should kill you now, before the Guardians return." The fire crackled between them. Daniel's throat was dry. He wanted to argue, to beg, but instead he forced himself to speak steady. "Then why don't you?" Serana stared at him a long moment. Her eyes softened, just slightly. "Because you saved me too. And because I do not yet know if the planet made mistake." She turned away, her silver hair glowing faintly in the fireht. Daniel sat back, shaken. Trust was thinner than a thread now, but it was still there, fragile, breaking. Outside, the forest whispered louder, as if listening, and far away. Deep in the ruins, the Guardian's red eyes lit up again. It had not forgotten him. The battle for survival the morning came with no peace. A heavy fog rolled across the glowing forest, muffling the sounds of life. Daniel sat outside the cave, repairing his damaged torch with shaking hands. Sleep had been short and restless. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the red eyes of the Guardian. Serana stood nearby, her golden gaze scanning the mist. Her silver skin glowed faintly, tattoos pulsing like fire beneath her flesh. She had not slept at all. Daniel broke the silence. "They'll come again, won't they?" Serana nodded slowly. "Yes. Guardians do not stop until their task is finished. They saw you. They marked you." Daniel's stomach twisted. He tried to sound braver than he felt. "Then we fight. Together." Serana studied him for a moment, her expression unreadable. Then, with a slow nod, she answered, "Together." The mist shifted. The ground trembled. A sound rose through the forest, grinding, a pulse like a drum of stone. Daniel stood, heart pounding. Serana stepped forward, raising her hand. Then, the trees split apart. The Guardian returned, taller than before, stone plates shifting, glowing lines bright as molten fire. Red eyes blazed like twin suns. Around it, more hounds crawled from the mist, metal claws digging into the earth. Daniel's breath caught. "We can't fight that. Sirana didn't look back at him. Her voice was steady. "We must." The hounds attacked first, rushing from all sides. Daniel swung his repaired torch, sparks flying as he slashed one across the head. The machine shrieked and collapsed, smoke pouring from its joints. Another leaped at him. He fell back, shoving a salvage shock device against its chest. The hound convulsed and fell limp. Daniel scrambled to his feet, panting. Sirana moved like lightning. Her hands burned with light, blasting 2 hounds into pieces. A third lunged at her, but she twisted aside and drove her glowing palm through its chest. Metal shattered, raining sparks. But the guardian itself had not moved yet. It only watched, silent, as if testing them. Then it stepped forward. The earth shook as it raised one massive arm. Energy gathered in its chest, a glowing sphere that hummed with terrible power. Daniel's stomach dropped. He recognized the buildup. It was charging a weapon. "Sirana," he shouted. She already saw it. "Run." They dove as a beam of red light tore through the clearing. The blast ripped apart trees, turning them into ash in seconds. The ground glowed red-hot where it struck, smoke rising in thick clouds. Daniel coughed, pulling himself up. "We can't beat that thing with just fire and sticks." Sirana's golden eyes burned. "Then use your mind, engineer. Build, find a way." Daniel's mind raced. His belt was nearly empty wires, scraps, a broken beacon, a few charges left in the torch. Not enough to win a war. Unless... His eyes darted to the ruins behind the Guardian. The carvings, the symbols that had responded to his touch. If the machine was powered by the same energy, maybe he could overload it. "Sirana," he shouted. "I need to get to the wall. Distract it." She gave him a sharp look, then nodded. Without hesitation, she sprinted across the clearing light, blazing from her hands. She struck the Guardian's leg, bolts of energy crackling across its stone armor. The machine staggered, turning toward her. Daniel ran. He reached the wall, slamming his palms against the symbols. The stone lit up instantly, veins of light spreading like rivers. Energy surged through his body, painful but alive. His vision, blurred with images again, battles, fire, ancient voices. Come on," he muttered through gritted teeth. The Guardian roared, swinging its arm toward Sirana. She dodged, but the ground exploded beside her. She fell, rolling hard against the dirt. The hounds closed in, snapping their jaws. Daniel shouted, "No." He pushed harder against the wall, the heat burning through his hands. The symbols blazed brighter, and suddenly the Guardian froze. Its red eyes flickered. The connection between Daniel and the machine grew stronger. He could feel its design, its circuits, its ancient purpose. It was built to protect, not to kill without cause. It saw him as an intruder. But maybe he could make it see him as something else. He focused with everything he had. "Listen to me," he whispered. "I'm not your enemy." The machine hesitated. Then Sirana screamed. One of the hounds slashed across her shoulder, blood shining silver in the firelight. She blasted it back, but she staggered. Daniel's anger flared. The wall blazed like the sun, and the Guardian staggered backward, shaking as if in pain. Hounds collapsed one by one, their red eyes dying. The Guardian let out a sound like grinding stone, its red eyes fading to orange, then to black. With a crash, it fell to its knees. The ground shook as the giant machine powered down. Silent at last, Daniel collapsed, his hands smoking, his body trembling. He gasped for air, every muscle screaming. Sirana limped toward him, clutching her wounded shoulder. Her golden eyes glowed faintly, filled with both pain and disbelief. "You controlled it." Daniel shook his head weakly. No, I convinced it. At least, I think I did. She stared at him, her voice heavy. No human should do this. Not ever. Daniel looked back at the fallen guardian, its massive frame lying still in the mist. Maybe I'm not just human anymore. The thought chilled him far away, in the deeper ruins. Other lights flickered to life. More guardians. More machines waking from their long sleep. The battle was won, but the war was only beginning. The ruins were quiet, but the silence was not peace. The fallen guardian lay like a broken mountain, its red eyes dark at last. Smoke curled from the ground where its weapon had burned the earth. Daniel leaned against the stone wall, his hands raw and trembling. Every breath felt heavy. Syra stood. Near him, one hand pressed against her wounded shoulder. Blood silver and glowing faintly soaked through her torn armor. Her golden eyes were fixed on Daniel, sharp, searching. You stopped it, she said, finally. Her voice was low, almost disbelieving. Daniel shook his head. Not stopped, just wait. Made it see me differently. For now, her gaze darkened. For now is not enough. Others will come. You saw the lights. Daniel had seen them. Deep in the ruins, far below the earth, more machines were waking. The guardians were not finished. This was only the beginning. As dawn broke, a strange beacon of light rose from the ruins. A tower of energy climbed into the sky, piercing the green clouds. Daniel stared at it, heart sinking. What is it? He asked. Sirana's expression turned grim. A call. The ruins send message to the stars. Someone will come. Daniel's chest tightened. Rescue or enemies? Her silence was the answer. The day dragged on. They hid inside the cave again, gathering what little supplies they had. Sirana cleaned her wound with glowing herbs, her face calm though her hands shook. Daniel tried to repair his broken beacon, his fingers clumsy from exhaustion. Finally, Sirana spoke, her voice sharp. We must decide. Use the beacon, call the ships, or destroy it before others arrive. Daniel looked up at her. Destroy it? Are you serious? This could be our only way home. Her golden eyes burned. Or it could bring death. My enemies will come. They will follow the call. They will see you control the guardians. And then they will burn this world to ash. Daniel clenched his fists. So what do you suggest? We just stay here? Hide forever? She stood, towering over him. Better to hide than to doom us both. The firelight flickered between them. Tension thickened the air. Daniel rose to his feet, meeting her gaze. Listen to me, Sirana. I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask for your powers, your guardians, your planet. But I can't just sit and wait to die. If there's a chance, anyone can find us. I have to try. Her jaw tightened. And if the ones who come are not friends? Daniel's voice cracked, but he held her eyes. Then we fight, like we always have, together. For the first time, she looked uncertain. Her golden eyes softened, flickering like candlelight. She turned away, staring into the forest. The night came fast. The beacon still burned into the sky, calling. Daniel lay awake, staring at the glow. His thoughts were heavy. Would it bring a human rescue ship? Would it bring Sirana's enemies? Or something worse, something ancient? Beside him, Sirana sat silently, watching him. He could feel her mistrust, her fear, but also something else. A connection neither of them had asked for, but neither could deny. Finally, she spoke, voice quiet. If the wrong ship comes, will you protect me? Daniel turned his head, meeting her gaze. His answer came without hesitation. Yes, I promise. The promise hung between them as the forest stirred. Hours later, a sound split the night. A low hum, rising louder, vibrating. The ground? Daniel scrambled to his feet, heart racing. Serana stood too, her golden eyes wide. Through the clouds, lights appeared. Not the glowing moons, not stars' engines. A ship descended, cutting through the mist, its shadow vast across the ruins. Daniel's chest filled with hope and dread. At once it worked, he whispered. Someone's here. The ship slowed, hovering above the clearing. Its lights bathed them in blinding white. The air shook with the roar of its engines. Daniel raised his hand to shield his eyes. Serana stepped closer to him, her body tense, ready for battle. Is it yours? She asked. Daniel swallowed hard. I don't know. A hatch opened on the ship's belly. Figures moved inside, silhouettes against the bright light. Voices echoed, too far to understand. Serana's hand glowed faintly. Daniel felt his throat tighten. If these were humans, he was saved. If they were not. The first figure stepped into the light. Daniel's breath caught at a war armor black, sharp, with glowing red lines like the Guardians. Its mask was faceless, its eyes burning like fire. Not human, not rescue. Serana's voice was cold. They come for the power. The armored figures leaped from the ship, landing hard on the glowing ground. Weapons rose, aimed at them. The ship's engines roared, shaking the ruins. Daniel felt the weight of choice crash down on him. Run, fight, or surrender. The Guardians below stirred again, the ruins shaking. The world itself seemed to ask him, which side will you choose? Daniel tightened his grip on his torch, his eyes meeting Serana's. She raised her glowing hand, sighed. By side they stood. The war had arrived, and the choice was theirs.